We're on page 665. Do a song that we did last night at the Seder for those that were here and those that were not. At the very top, we were slaves, but now we are free people. Avadim hayinu hayinu, ata b'nei chorim b'nei chorim. Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorim. Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorim b'nei chorim. Avadim hayinu hayinu, ata b'nei chorim b'nei chorim. Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorim. Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorim b'nei chorim. How great it is to be together. Hine matovu manahim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manahim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, yalalai, la 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 la. Hine matov, yalalai, la 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 la. Page 128. Hine matovu manahim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manahim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manahim, yalalai lai lai la 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 la. Hine matovu manahim, yalalai lai la 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 la. Hine matovu manahim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manahim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos to everyone and welcome. And Chag Pesach Sameach, happy Passover to all of you. Those of you who were here last night know that we celebrated the Seder as a congregation. It went, I thought, pretty well. I don't know what you thought, but you were the other guy leading it with me.
Yeah, you want me to tell you what I thought
No.
publicly, or we can talk
privately? But it was great to see many of you there, and those of you who celebrated the Seder on your own. I hope you had a beautiful Seder. I hope everyone's at least had an opportunity to observe one Seder this year. It's really one of the highlights of the Jewish calendar, and it's interesting because regular Shabbat observance, like we're doing tonight, there have been recent Federation studies about it. Only about 20% of North American Jews attend a Friday night service or a Saturday morning service in any kind of regular way. But something like 80 to 85% of North American Jews observe Passover in some way. So there's something very, very powerful about Passover, whether it's the ritual or the meal or the sense of community or the theme of freedom from bondage. It's been around a long time, and I hope it'll be around for a lot longer. And if you're here for the first time or visiting, special welcome to you on this Shabbat, the Shabbat of Passover. So we're going to begin our service with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, and I'd like to invite Donna Mendelson to come up to the bima. If you want to follow the blessing, it is on page 120 in your prayer books. Yeah, they should be okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat and Yom Tov.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat v'Yom Tov.
We're going to continue on page 142 with the singing of Shalom Alechem, one of the traditional Kabbalat Shabbat Friday night songs, composed by mystics in the Galilee about 400 years ago.
Shalom Alechem, Malachei HaSharit, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sechem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 144. We continue now with the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadav, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Bi'alma Divrach, Yeruteh, V'yamlich Malchuteh, B'chayechon Uvyomechon, U'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, Uvizman Kariv, Ve'imeru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, La'olam Ma'amaya Yitbarach. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei Dekudisha Barichu. Le'la min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'yama, v'imeru, amen.
Our call to worship the Baruch Hu is on page 146. If you are able, please rise.
Ya la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please remain standing as we turn to page 149, and I invite you to join me in the English at the top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Page 151, again together at the top of the page. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam Vaed. We're in the back of the book on the very opening, the cover. You should have You Shall Love. You shall love Adonai. You shall love Adonai. You shall love Adonai Echad, your God. So if you're having trouble finding it, it should be right here on the inside of the back cover. With all your mind, with all your strength, with all your being, with all your being, set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall love Adonai. You shall love Adonai. You shall love Adonai, your God. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, that you will remember, do all my commandments, and be holy unto your God. You shall love Adonai. You shall love Adonai. You shall love Adonai, your God.
Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi Chamocha is on page 158.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh, malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, zeli anu v'amru Adonai yimlo le'olam va'ed, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh.
Please join me at the top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen.
We continue on page 164 with the Amidah prayer. Our minhag, our custom here, is to do the first three blessings together and then to continue praying each of us in our own way until we're done, at which point you're invited to please sit down. For now, please rise if you're able, page 164.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Koneh Hakol, ve'Zocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot, u'mevii geula livnei v'nehem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עושה ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, וחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We're going to do two songs. We're going to combine two texts here, so you can just listen, or if you want to try to follow along, you can. We're going to be on 644 and 665. 644, the second from the bottom prayer, and 665 at the bottom of the page. So we have Ime nani li mi li, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? And then 665, in every generation we must see ourselves as if we personally came out of Egypt. So we go like this. Ime nani li mi li, וכשאני לעצמי מעני, ואם לא עכשיו, אימתי. So we're on page 644. I'll let you know when we go to the other page. אם אין אני לי מי לי, וכשאני לעצמי מעני, ואם לא עכשיו, אימתי. We'll do that one more time. אם אין אני לי מי לי, וכשאני לעצמי מעני, ואם לא עכשיו, אימתי. Page 665. בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. We'll do that one more time, then we'll go back to 644. בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. 644. אם אין אני לי מי לי, וכשאני לעצמי מעני, ואם לא עכשיו, אימתי. One more time. אם אין אני לי מי לי, וכשאני לעצמי מעני, ואם לא עכשיו, אימתי. ואם לא עכשיו, אימתי. Old camp song, Debbie Friedman.
We pause now in our service to think of those in need of healing on this Shabbat, the Shabbat Passover, healing of body, healing of spirit, and healing of heart. And we ask God to bestow the bracha, the blessing of refuah shlema, full and complete healing on the following men and women from our congregation or those known and loved by our community. Ilana Massey, Kevin Brackett, Michelle Camisia, Joshua Hyman, Diane Butler, Jesse Friedman, Marjorie Gilberg, Michael Blend, Jim Mates, Janet Marbury, Brenda Flood, Sharon Blevis, Joan Elson, Sherry Cohos, Lynn McManus, Walter Wilmert, Gail Showley, Jerry Mautner, Kirk Whitlatch, Barbara Cosson, Etta Kessler, David Rabb, Jensen Beach, Carl Smith, Aaron Ledden, Geraldine Kokich, Jeff Weiss, and Manuel Halaz. And if anyone has a name they wish to add, either at home or here, I invite you to please share that name with us. The Misha Berach prayer is on page 511.
Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Hu yivarech et hacholim.
Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos again, and special welcome to those of you who are visiting. Natasha, your dad, and Daniel, your family. You're always welcome, and it's good to have you here. This is a special Shabbat, as I said at the outset. This is the Shabbat during the week-long festival of Pesach, of Passover. And in that way, we're doubly blessed. We're able to rejoice in the Sabbath, but we're also able to rejoice in this very important festival in the Jewish tradition. It's a time when we celebrate Jewish survival, redemption, and unity. And yet, in light of what is going on in Israel, the Jewish people these days are anything but unified. What can or should we say from here in the diaspora? Should we praise the massive anti-government protests that have taken place in recent months all over the state of Israel? Should we criticize Israel's current government for including racist and anti-democratic forces in its ranks? What should we advocate as a next step? One thing that many of us can agree on is praise for the decision to pause the government's divisive overhaul of the judicial system, which happened just recently. Now, for decades, Jewish organizations and synagogues have generally supported Israel's foreign policy and mostly stayed quiet on its domestic conflicts. But these days, a domestic policy issue, judicial overhaul, and a number of other items related to it are threatening to tear Israel apart. And that has compelled many of us to engage in two unusual things, those of us who live here in the diaspora. One is to opine, to offer our opinions on Israel's internal affairs. That is something that really hasn't happened much since 1948. And the second is to publicly critique in a much more open way the government that is responsible for the current crisis. And so what I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight, and I wanted to open up the floor, is what are your views on the current situation in Israel as a Jew or a member of the Jewish community who lives in the diaspora? How can we be loyal brothers and sisters to our family in Israel while openly criticizing the policies of a government that acts in ways that often seem contrary to Jewish values? How can we be supportive of Israelis while at the same time recognizing that the current government is acting in ways that seem oftentimes contrary to Jewish values? Much like the 12 values that we have up on our wall, the values of justice, the values of loving your neighbor, the values of welcoming the stranger. What do we do when the government seems to act in ways that are contrary to that? So what are your views on the situation? I know a lot of people have had thoughts on it. We're not always comfortable talking about it. But how do you feel we can walk that line between being supportive of our Jewish brothers and sisters in the Holy Land, but at the same time not being afraid to call truth to power when we see that that government is acting in ways that are very disturbing and troubling? Ellen.
I think we only have to look at what happened in Tennessee yesterday before we sit in criticism of anything else that's going on around the world. I think things are just as bad here in this country. I stand with the people of Israel. I don't stand with the government of Israel. Israel stands for democracy, and the people are standing in protest. Beth Painter, one of our members of our synagogue and part of the Jewish cohort here in Northern California, was just in Israel, and she stood in protest with the Israelis against what Netanyahu and the government was trying to do to change the judicial system. But we have the same thing going on here in this country, so it's very hard to be critical of something that's going on that's not in our backyard. We need to look at what's going on here as well.
Thank you. Your point is well taken. By the way, Beth Painter is going to be speaking about her experience in Israel in another couple of weeks. I don't remember the exact date. But you're right. There are anti-democratic forces going on all over the world. In Israel, in our country, in Poland, and in many other countries in Europe and elsewhere. As Jews, I do think we have a special obligation and a special relationship to Israel as well as to this country. But again, just as many people for a number of years here were proud to be American, but not very proud of the government at the time, I think that's the dance we have to make. How can we be supportive of our friends and neighbors, even when we're critical of a government that we feel has gone awry? Other thoughts? Yes, Sai. And speak in your best accent for us.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
As one that is that on?
Yeah, just hold it right up to your mouth.
Okay. As one that was in Belgium during World War II and saw how the Jews were being killed at the time, the only place we have that is ours, us as Jews, is Israel. So, yes, maybe something going on that we don't understand in Israel. It's very, very complex with the Palestinian and Israel, and then inside of Israel, all the different groups that are meeting. But Israel is the most important to us, to everybody in this room. We are Jews. It is the place. Let me tell you, during World War II, we had no place to go. All frontiers were closed to us. They wouldn't let us any place. You think, oh, well, why don't you run to Switzerland? You couldn't get there. The Germans and Nazis were at the border waiting for you, and they would kill you just trying to get out. But Israel was there. Israel will accept you. All you have to do is say, I'm a Jew, and you are in. And so what the lady said is very true, and we should not criticize them. It is our country. It is a place very, very important to all of us Jews.
Thank you. Other thoughts, questions? I think one of the things that's interesting and troubling about what's happening in Israel is we all know about the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, between Jewish Israelis, Palestinians. What's happening now, which is bringing hundreds of thousands of Israelis into the streets to protest their own government, which is the equivalent of millions of Americans if we were to do that, is that now Jew and Jew are fighting with each other. Secular Israelis versus religious Israelis, left-wing Israelis versus right-wing Israelis, and the country is at the verge of a civil war, and that's particularly disturbing. I do think, however, that even though you're right, Israel has become a safe haven and a refuge that unfortunately we did not have, or you did not have, growing up in Europe during World War II and the Holocaust, it is still a Jewish state. It is a special kind of state. And when that Jewish state acts in ways, in my view, that are in opposition to core Jewish values, we need to speak up as Jews, even though we don't live there. That's my view. We have time for maybe one or two more thoughts or comments or questions. Anybody else? Yeah, please. And just put it right to your mic.
Yeah, I would have a question if you can add to it. The judicial reform, you mentioned secular and the conservative, do you call them Jewish, or more Orthodox? Do they fall consistently, one group on one side of the judicial reform and the other group on the other side?
You know, I'm not an expert, I'm not a political scientist, but I think generally speaking, the ultra-Orthodox, the more right-wing Orthodox in Israel generally are in favor of overhauling the judicial system, mainly the Supreme Court in Israel, whereas people who are more secular and more on the left tend to think that it's important to keep it strong as it is because it's the only thing that keeps Israel, a country without a constitution, that keeps the powers in check. They're afraid that if the Supreme Court is weakened in some way, that politicians will be able to do whatever they want without being kept in check by a judicial system. Yep. Anything else? I'm wrestling with this issue as much as anybody else, especially as someone who's a Zionist. And as a Zionist who believes strongly in the necessity of a Jewish sovereign and militarized state, when I see the current government acting in ways that are so contrary to everything I know as a rabbi about what Judaism, what the Talmud, what the Torah tells us we need to be and how we should act, it's very, very troubling. One person I know has said, well, look, the fact that hundreds of thousands of Israelis are marching and protesting in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, everywhere, nonviolently, that in and of itself is a testimony to what a strong democracy Israel really is. Now, whether that applies to the Palestinians is a different question, in terms of how they're being treated. But it's an interesting way to look at it. I appreciate your comments. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more. And let's hope that in the months ahead, when the Knesset gathers again and they debate this issue, that cool heads will prevail and they'll find some sort of compromise that allows everyone to be, if not happy, at least at peace with the situation. Thank you. We're going to turn to page 586 now for the Aleinu, and we have one of our religious school students here, Charles. And Charles, you have opened the Ark doors before, right? And I've seen you do it, and you're already getting up to do it. And you're so good at it. I would love you to do it for all of us. So would you come up and open the doors? And would everyone else please rise? Just open both of them. Just hold that one on the other side too.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Good job. Okay. Please be seated. I'll tell you, Charles, I knew you were good at opening and closing the Ark, but I think you're getting better and better as the months go on. So thank you. That was great.
I think many doors will open for that young
Yes,
man.
I think so. So it is my honor now to invite up CBS President and my friend Roberta Solomon, who has some important announcements to share with you tonight.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Nice to see everyone. Announcements. All right, starting with April 15th. At 10:30 a.m., Torah study will be with Rabbi Goldstein and Art Grand at CBS. On April 17th at 6 p.m., please join Rabbi Goldstein, Gordon, and guest speaker Cy Carfield on Holocaust Memorial Day. In addition to music and a commemorative candle lighting in honor of the 6 million, it says this again, I'm sorry, it's just repeating what I just said. In addition to music and a commemorative candle lighting in honor of the 6 million, CBS member and Holocaust survivor Cy Carfield will share his experiences during that tragic period in world and Jewish history. The Yom HaAtzmaut Community Barbecue will be on Sunday, April 23rd, with Israeli dancing and a barbecue lunch potluck. RSVP online and let us know what you will bring. On April 24th at 7 p.m. at CBS, Hebrew High will meet with Rabbi and Leah in person, and also on the same day and same time, but online via Zoom. Soul Sisters Book Club will meet with this month's book, Classic Yiddish Stories by S.Y. Abramovich, Shalom Aleichem, and I.L. Peretz. On Wednesday, April 26th at 7 p.m. in the CBS kitchen, join the Judaism Tribe with Vera Garber. And on Thursday, April 27th, the Tribe for Your Right to Resilience will meet at 6:30 p.m. in the CBS Administrative Building. And last, but certainly not least, a big save the date item. It's time to celebrate CBS's 70th anniversary. We'll be celebrating all summer, but the kickoff is with a 3-day weekend. It starts on May 19th, 20th, and 21st. Tickets for Saturday the 20th are now on sale. Hope to see you all there. We'd like to give warm wishes to this week's birthdays and anniversaries. Happy birthday to Jennifer Kaufman, Ed co-hosts Matt Eisenberg, Noah Ewig, Anthony Borders, and Andrew Florsheim. And a happy anniversary to Alan and Barbara Balick, their 56th, and Neil and Cindy Water, their 44th. Have a great evening. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Our thoughts now turn as we reach the end of our service to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and of death. We honor those who have died during the past year. Dean Wilson, Norman Charney, David Alpert, Renee Munoz, Michael Kasson, Paul Dworsky, Ed Eston, Micah Bisel, Jill Daly Katz, Gabriel Harrison Escalera, Colonel Ed West, Joe McCaffrey, Beverly Eigner, Ruth Morlett, Lawrence Blake, Othello Thornton, Alan Rosen, Fred Goldman, Ann Rapson, Bob Massey, Lucille Posner, Bunny Goldstein, and William Bill Lenish. We also remember and honor the Yartsites, the anniversaries of the deaths of Ethel Solomon, Jean Bremler Ladrigan, Ruth Dinnerman, Bertha Carfiol, Samuel Bickoff, Bertha Albert, Sam Weinstock, Gerald Lustig, and Paul Dumfort. And if anyone has a name they wish to add, I invite you to please do so. The mourner's Kaddish is on page 598. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach herutei v'yamlich malkutei, b'chayachon v'yomachon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei maya, Yitbarach v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudsha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace grant peace to all those in mourning and comfort to all those who are bereaved. And let us all say amen. Please be seated. We have our Kiddush and Motzi prayer momentarily, and an oneg waiting for us in the social hall. But first, we have our concluding song.
We do. And page 666. I don't know if that has any significance.
Not to us.
Not to us. So I'm trying to remember the Hebrew version of this. It's not here. You know that song. Ma'otzur.
Yeah.
That's it just slipped my mind. Okay, so Ma'otzur is a song we've all known for years. It doesn't have the Hebrew in here, but it does have the English on page 666, God of Might. So we're going to sing that, and hopefully you'll recognize this melody with the very non-contemporary words. Some of them we may all want to go home and look up on Google. Let's find a key. Try it here. God of might, God of right, thee we give all glory, thine all praise in these days, as in ages hoary, when we hear year by year freedom's wondrous story. Now as erst, when thou first made the proclamation, warning loud every proud, every tyrant nation, we thy fame still proclaim, bowed in adoration. Be with all who enthrall to their tasks are driven, by thy power speed the hour when their chains are riven. Earth around will resound joyful hymns to heaven. Lie, 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 lie.
Please rise for the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen.
L'chaim. Now we have two blessings for the bread tonight. Not just the motzi, but because it's matzah, we have a second one. So why don't we chant the motzi and then we'll say the second blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
And this one ends al achilat matzah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom.